Alrighty, good morning, everybody. According to the clock, it is actually time to turn around and do the thing. Welcome to the second extra session. Yes, I wasn't going to go there, but someone did. For those,
and I'll say it as I say it. Note the note well.
Yeah, well, there it is again. The note well. It's still the same as yesterday. Our agenda for today is IMAP 4 Rev 2. Thank you, Alexi. Blue sheets are going around. Alexi's going to talk about IMAP 4 Rev 2. We're going to talk possibly some more about our charter, and that's everything on the agenda for today. So let's move straight over to Alexi's slides.
Note that there are two ADs on the author list.
Yeah,
here.
it does look very suspicious, doesn't
it? If you want to be an AD, just ask us to be a co-author on this document.
Hey, is that a chair dispatch? Seems to be that's the other way to do it.
That's the other way. That's after you're an AD and we
right.
put you out to pasture, you go to
Career
chair
planning.
dispatch.
All right, let's do this thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I'm not going to reiterate the goals. I think we're nearly done with the process. That's, although it's an interesting thing because I obviously had, some ideas whether we are trying to optimize for clients or for the server. And then Timo just sent a bunch of comments and you can see that goals might be a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm just talking. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah.
Talking. This one's good. You can have this microphone.
Yeah. Blah, blah.
Is that microphone actually live?
Right. So, okay, let me just. Oh, actually. Do you hear me? It works in a little bit. Okay. So, very quickly, high-level goals. Make client developers' life easier.
Hey, hello.
Fold very common extensions to IMAP 4 Rev 1 into the base spec. Hopefully, be able to run two on the same port. Right. So. Last time I had two slides, sort of, things to add and things to remove and clarify. The good thing that one of them is empty now. So I think most of clarifications are done. So we agreed last time to add the move command to the base spec. It's quite commonly used. Clarified unsolicited fetches. That they might contain UIDs. It simplifies clients significantly. LSUP was taken out. Search response, recent flag, unseen, response code, and select. So all the stuff that people, either there are better ways of doing this now, or they're just pointless things that servers need to do and clients don't really care about these days. I also found looking at RFC 2231 about parameter continuations, I found some text updating IMAP spec, and this was actually never mentioned in IMAP. So this was like RFC, updating RFC 2060, which is IMAP 4. I know that many servers do this already, so I just made it clear. Things remaining. I think more examples explaining use of body structure with various complicated messages, especially with nested messages and forwarded, would be very useful. There's still a significant amount of bugs in various implementations in regards to this. Again, if you have great examples, send them to the mailing list. That would be very helpful. But if not, I think we'll come up with, Barry and I will come up with something.
Yeah. Do we think? Am I coming through the speakers?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Do we think we can actually explain this in text better, or that we just want to do it with better examples or more examples? Because yeah, I know the nested messages in particular, especially complex ones, have just been a nightmare.
Yeah, nested messages, they have special numbering. So they're always a special case. I can tell you, so I'm recently writing IMAP client again, and I had to rewrite code 3 times to actually got all the cases. And this is me. So, you know,
Right.
this is
So
pretty complicated.
The question is, can we make the text better, or just do it with examples?
I would start with examples, because the document has one example, but it doesn't demonstrate lots of diverse complexity. Every time I need to test it, I test it against my own server, which, you know, similar to Cyrus. And
All right.
yeah, so I would say add a couple more examples, and then we can see if we can improve text. The only other major additions are addition of list extended, as we already agreed, allowing status in list, and one clarification that needs to be done is binary fetch. So we discussed it last time and a little bit on the mailing list. I think we agreed to add the fetch side of it so that you can fetch binary body parts in binary, but we decided not to add append side, so when you can upload them, this keeps it a little bit simpler. And Chris raised a question which I had on to-do list, but it's not reflected in the message. In the latest revision is we need to be clear whether binary fetch only applies to leaf body parts or whether it applies to intermediate nodes. So what does it mean if you fetch binary multi-part mixed? Do we want it to work? You know, so.
I think the intent of binary is to retrieve a binary body part, not to retrieve in binary mode a segment of the message. So I think we should just stick with that and say that binary is a single body part. And yeah, a single leaf body part. Does anyone have a real use case where they need to use binary to retrieve a portion of the tree that isn't just a leaf body part?
Well, I suppose what I'm thinking about is if you have a forwarded or nested message, you want to start with this message RFC body part and download everything below it, basically. And if it's in binary, you want to get it in binary.
This is the case where it confuses clients to have to check, is this a message RFC 822, then I need to download it as not binary, otherwise I need to download it as binary to get the binary representation, because the binary representation of a message RFC 822 is just the bytes.
I suppose my sense would be that, okay, are people really doing that? As opposed to, my sense is that if you're going to do that kind of thing, you just download the whole message in the first place. You just do a fetch RFC 822. And
Yeah,
get the
except
entire
for
message.
whether it's message digest of, you know, 100 of other messages. And
Yeah.
I know
Okay.
it's a bit contrived example. It's
Okay,
rather
yeah,
complicated use case,
then
but
maybe we can say it applies only to leaf nodes and to message RFC 822 parts or something.
Ned would like to say to the microphone, message/global question mark.
Yeah.
that's the big part.
Message body parts. And
Well,
leaf
actually,
body
there is
parts.
extra issue with message global because message global now allows nested encodings. And I actually haven't looked at the text to see what makes sense.
Timo would also like to say to the microphone, the main problem with multiple parts or multiple messages is handling unknown CTE response code, since you don't know what exactly it applies to.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the problems with fetching multiple chunks. All right. Well, fine. If there are use cases for other than leaf nodes, then we should allow that.
Sorry, I was really playing devil's advocate. I just came up with this. Yeah, maybe we should think a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd like to say, the implementing
Chris Newman,
sorry. Yeah, implementing this for a leaf node, a leaf part is pretty straightforward on the server.
Right.
Implementing this to support, a subset of the message gets more complicated. And if you actually wanted to implement, decoding the nested encoding case message global, which I never would, then it gets even more complicated. So, I would say I would say the trade-off is we kind of want IMAP4-Rev2 to actually deploy. So we want to minimize barriers to getting it deployed within reason. So that's why I would pretty strongly prefer leaf node only.
Okay. No, I think actually the complexity argument,
right?
I think you won over me because, yeah, you need to potentially, do, I don't know, decode them into separate files and merge this together. This is,
them together and stream them out. Maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's why I was saying only leaf parts. The same thing that Chris said. Why don't we put only the leaf body parts in the spec, and as we review it, people can say whether they suddenly discover.
Well, yeah, I think possible outcome of this discussion is we need to review how message global works with binary anyway. So maybe we'll do revision of the binary extension, which includes other bits, later on.
Sure.
Ned would like to say leaf only is fine for him as a starting point.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
well, as long as we tell it, it's.
So let's put leaf only in the spec with a note that says, please review this part carefully and make sure that you don't have real use cases for other answers.
Yeah, there are a couple of remaining bits from, I think, so Braun did a couple of polls last time about various bits. I'm not sure that there is any strong feeling for any of this, so I suspect probably this will be dropped. But if you have an opinion.
Chris Newman, I really like search res. It's very simple to implement. Nice little spec. So
you don't get a problem from me. I'm the author.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine.
I think one less option since it's it's easy to implement and widely implemented.
Okay. If we can minute this.
Nobody's gonna make a case for status deleted, right?
Well, yeah.
Quite a bit already.
Yeah, this is it came sort of related to quota, how much storage you can free if you expunge this mailbox type thing.
But
so we can just delete.
Number of messages isn't relevant to that. It's the total size of the messages that really
It
matters.
depends on your quota resource type. Yeah. Yeah. Happy to drop the second one. Okay. Right. So just going back, there are a couple of changes related to list extended that we need to do. We clarify binary fetch. We add search res. We should be able to do this by material, I would say. And then I thought, there is nothing else. And then Timo sent a long message yesterday, picking up on all the things that I forgot about, which was very good. So let's just go through. I didn't have slides for this, so let's just. Right. Yeah, just keep scrolling. Yeah, this is straightforward.
I had a bit of a complaint about this, that you actually have to keep track of every single UID validity you've ever told a client ever, because that client might reconnect.
Right, so just keeping existing language. Yeah, it's an well-known deficiency in Cyrus-based implementations, at least. Not, yeah, our server doesn't increment UID validity when we rename.
Wait, we scrolled past it too quickly. What it is? What is it?
So the issue is
must be greater, must be different. Okay.
if you call
Okay. Yeah.
if you call the client, you don't. I don't think clients enforce check that the new value is greater than just check it's not the same as the last one they know about.
Yeah, I know. I understand. I just needed to read it. That was all.
Yeah. So I think Braun argued that we should keep it as is, basically.
Yeah, I think so. Even if servers are not actually obeying it.
Right. Yeah, I agree about this. Must not literally close the connection without by is.
Yeah.
It's not very well described now.
Yeah, it should be a should not.
Yeah, and we probably should talk about more. What are the cases exactly?
Yeah, or it should send a by if closing the connection, really.
Because there are times when you can't. You just have to kill the connection.
No, it must not without sending by. So.
Well, I know, but I'm saying sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes
right,
you just
exactly.
have to kill the connection.
Yeah.
So that's why should not is the right thing.
Yeah.
Chris Newman, I agree with should not. The two cases I've encountered where it's very important to just hang up is in the middle of if the client starts delaying in the middle of a TLS negotiation, you can't send a by. You cannot. The only option is close the connection, and then also the other example was fetching large message. Which,
actually, can you send a small message about in the middle of TLS? I think that's might be very useful to add to the document.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is if you're killing it in the middle of a large fetch, technically you can send the by, but it doesn't do any good. The client's not going to get it before you kill the connections.
Right.
The only other thing I would argue for here is let's get rid of a few of the negatives from that and just say should send a by if unilaterally closing the connection, rather than should not if not.
Yes.
Hey.
Yes. Okay.
All right. So we keep scrolling down.
Yeah, and clarifying quoted nil versus nil as an atom and special form. That's fine. Well, basically, it was just a statement of fact that some servers treat mailbox names as case sensitive because they might be using file system on the OS, which is itself case insensitive in ASCII range. So this is clients cannot rely on this one way or the other, and it's server implementations have a choice which way they want to do it. It's more a statement of fact than
Right. So the typical way of doing that is the server preserves the case but doesn't care.
Yes. But this effects create in the sense of if you try to create mailbox in different case, it will fail the latter one.
That's correct. And that's
the only thing it is trying to say.
Bad behavior.
Right.
But yeah, I would rather go that way than. Yeah. What I would like to do is recommend that either that you always preserve the case of the created mailbox, and that the server may choose to ignore the case in future references to that mailbox. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, can you suggest some text? Because
I'll suggest specific.
This was
text
not
for it.
intended to be any level of requirements. It's just showing two alternatives that are common in the wild, basically.
Right. But I think we do need to be prescriptive about it so that we make it clear that if you do the wrong thing, you're going to screw up interoperability in funny ways. I'll come up with text for
Sure.
it when I do the list extended additions. I'll look at this.
Okay, thank
Got
you.
two things from Jabba here. One from Ned saying, problem with calling for specific TLS behavior is that it's typically up to the TLS implementation you're using. I'm not
I
sure.
don't
he
think
caught
anybody,
the
Chris
meaning
didn't say anything about specific TL. All he
Yeah.
was saying was highlight that as a reason that you might have to close the connection without
There
a
is
body.
no other choice to do that.
Yeah.
Do it there.
Timo says, I'm maybe more worried about the part of the UTF-8 normalization than case sensitivity.
Yeah.
It was case sensitive in ASCII range. That's what's deliberate.
Yeah, but I will look at this whole thing about mailbox naming and make a pass through it, and then we'll see where we come
Okay.
out.
Scroll down.
Yep.
Yes, this section needs rework. What happened is Chris contributed text to move modified UTF-7 to appendix, sort of as an optional backward compatibility thing, and this wasn't cleanly edited. So it might give you a wrong impression that this is supported. So I think we just need to review and either move this section or edit it slightly.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a landmine for servers that are trying to support both Rev 1 and Rev 2, dealing with both modified UTF-7 and UTF-8 for the same mailbox names. I don't know. Chris is going to tell us how to do this.
Yeah, I've implemented this. There are some subtle cases, but I was able to, but it's not too bad. Yeah, the subtle case is you must track on the server side whether or not the client has enabled either IMAP4 Rev 2 or or the UTF-8 extent, SMTP UTF-8. Because if
Right.
the client's enabled it, then the behavior of a bare ampersand is different. Because if the client hasn't enabled, a bare ampersand's an error, because it has to assume MUTF-7, and if it's enabled, then a bare ampersand, is allowed. And if your internal storage is MUTF-7, you turn the bare ampersand into ampersand dash. So yeah, this is implementable.
Is there any advice that you think we can add to this? I haven't thought the whole thing through, to be honest. I was thinking about, so you're saying you're rejecting bare ampersand if in non-UTF-8
okay, so here's
right?
the issue. Once
Right.
you allow UTF-8 in the protocol, you may as well allow UTF-8 in the protocol, period, whether or not you've enabled it.
Yeah.
So, it's actually harder if you disallow UTF-8 unless you've enabled it. So I allow UTF-8 all the time.
Yeah.
But then the way you deal with UTF-8 is different, a little bit different for mailbox names, depending on whether or not you've enabled, because of the encoding case.
I'll see if I can come. I understand what Chris is getting at. So again, I'll see if I can write text, and we'll see how
Okay.
that comes out.
Right.
Authenticate. I completely agree with this. We should not. We should take out digest MD5, and sure, scram SHA-FIT 256 is a fine substitution.
I think I did move digest MD5 to historic anyway, so that's probably a bad thing.
So he's right about that. I'm just wondering if we should have a mandatory to implement one. Like call scram mandatory to implement or something like that. Because otherwise a client could implement a perfectly good SASL mechanism and the server could implement a perfectly good other SASL mechanism, and then they're stuck with plain text passwords because they don't have anything good in common.
Chris Newman, the fact of the matter is they're stuck with plain text passwords anyway. So as much as I'd like to promote Scramshot 256, I think promoting it as a mandatory to implement isn't the right way to do it. It's I think it needs to be encouraged by the community, but I don't think I think people will just ignore that, and we're trying to impose our wishes on on implementers that can't follow that. Basically, the issue is if you tie into an identity system, and any medium to large deployment has to tie into an identity system, you can only implement what the identity system supports. So, if we put in a mandatory to implement, we're saying something that we know people will
have control
and can't deploy.
But I mean, I think this text is along the line of should. It doesn't quite
It is.
say.
I was suggesting mandatory to implement, but so Chris, you say we're stuck with plain text passwords anyway. Do you mean we're stuck with implementing them, or we're stuck with using them?
Well,
for the most part, both. I mean, you can create enclaves where you can do other things, but they're enclaves. I'll just one more note. I came up with an idea for a new SASL mechanism that I'm going to work on that for bootstrapping device-specific tokens. So I'm going to try working. I'm going to be working on that and come up with a proposal. So
okay. Just for the record, I suspect that we might get some pushback from the SEC ADs about not having a mandatory to implement SASL mechanism. Okay, we'll burn that bridge if we get to it.
well, should is pretty strong anyway. So.
But that's still not mandatory to implement, and they often want mandatory to implement. We'll see where we go. Yeah.
Right. Our favorite topic I forgot about, reference argument and list.
The reference, for those who don't know the history, the reference argument is there as like a CD, change directory command within the system. And it was put there because of a particular backend that used Unix file system. Is that obsolete now? Should we not use that anymore?
Well, we don't want to change syntax, right? At the moment it has two parameters basically, and there are complicated rules for combining them. So we're keeping the parameter.
Syntax-wise, you just stick in a null string. I mean, we can certainly deal with it syntax-wise. I guess my thought is that there's two things. If you need it syntax-wise and you're arbitrarily sticking in a null string, why not stick in an actual string? But there is some complexity to implementing a non-null string there, as I found out when I first implemented it.
Yes.
So I think we should just leave it the way it is.
Yeah, I'm tempted to leave it the way it is. I'm happy to say clients should use just empty reference. And then again, you need to explain. Yeah.
Right. I'm happy to say that. Why does it matter? If everybody has to implement it and make it work anyway, then it doesn't really matter.
Well, it just helps. Unless you're writing special client, it's just easier.
Yeah,
to write the
I'll
client.
buy that.
Complexity on the server remains. Yes.
I would not want to put it as a normative statement, but I would put it as an explanation that this is why it's there. If you don't have that particular use case, you're better off just using a null string and not going. Timo, do you have anything further to say about this?
Timo says, I think some clients have used the reference string and then it works differently in different servers, which confuses.
I believe that's true, yeah.
Yes.
So, but I think, as Alexei said, I think in some sense we really can't do anything about that at this point, unless we want to be incompatible.
So just tell clients not to do it and then...
Right, tell clients it's a bad idea to do it unless you have a really good reason to.
Right.
But not at a should level. Just,
That's fine.
yeah. All right, L sub. But
So-
LSub is gone, right?
Yeah, well, there is no. The comment was about no selects. When you do select empty
yeah.
string, right?
Yeah.
No, list empty string, and then you get
Right.
hierarchy separator. If we were writing it from scratch, I would have fixed it, but I'm tempted just to leave it as is because clients still need to handle it the way it is. So
Yes.
it's a kludge, but just
Yes.
let it be.
Well, that's again an artifact of a particular backend that was unable to put mailboxes and messages in the same mailbox. Is really where it came from. Right. If your backend structure says that if X contains other subfolders, it can't also contain messages.
Oh,
That's
no,
where
you're talking about no select.
That's where no
No,
select.
no. I think this is talking about list, quote, 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 quote.
Yeah.
You get this hierarchy separator
Yeah.
to find out, how to parse list of mailboxes. Or do it for the namespace, I think. So
I'm not talking about this text. I'm talking about Timo's comment
Timo's comments
about the no select kludge. That's
I might have misinterpreted his comment then, right, fair enough. Regarding no select in general, as much as it's pretty similar to non-existent in some, and in other cases it's not. But yeah, I don't think we can do anything about this, to be honest.
I agree.
Timo says the comment was about L sub empty string %.
That's what I thought
Yeah.
he was talking about.
Yeah, but so how does that?
It returns a special list response
Yes.
that just return you hierarchy delimiter, but it doesn't correspond to existing mailbox name.
Okay.
Timo is then saying, but you were saying list extended is coming anyway, so then L sub would be removed.
It's already gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LSub is not going. That's what I said. It's
So we don't
so
need
I
to
don't
worry
think that's
about that.
really an issue. I was thinking of I was looking at the no select in general. So anyway, let's move on.
Oh, actually, sorry. I might have intended for it to be gone. It might still remain in the document. Then it needs to be taken out.
Well,
Yes.
All right, let me
When I-
get
when I
L
put in
sub
list-
to be removed.
Yeah,
Anyway.
when I put in list extended, I'm going to go through and make
Yes,
sure that
that's part of it. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, this is very interesting requirement. In general, using different hierarchy delimiters in different namespaces is, I wouldn't say it's it's almost like a bad idea, but I understand why people do this.
This doesn't even have to do with different hierarchy delimiters. It's
Yeah.
it's just saying creating a new mailbox in a personal namespace when there are multiple personal namespaces. Yeah, I agree. Using the first one. Well,
An advanced client can do this, but
So,
no, I
let
haven't
me
seen
go
any.
a different route and say that I don't think we should be using normative language to talk about what a user interface should do. So maybe what we should say is just what the alternatives might be, and let the client decide whether to put up a pop-up asking for which namespace or just use the first one. And here we're saying
Yes,
that,
we don't need
this
to use
should is
should let-
about a user interface
Yeah,
issue.
agree.
And check, definitely we should drop, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, I haven't actually seen. I might know of one server that does multiple namespaces, but of the same type. So it's not a very common option, but yeah, it's quite a lot of complexity.
We just shouldn't have a should there.
Right.
We'll figure out what to do.
Check command.
Does anyone use that?
Well, I think it has slightly different semantic. In practice, all the servers I know treat check and no op as the
Yes,
same.
Exactly.
I'm fine either saying they're the same or removing check. I don't mind.
I suggest that we remove check because I've never encountered a client that sent it anyway.
I think check is more expensive one, right? Supposedly,
So
but we already,
theoretically,
yeah.
If it isn't just a no-op, then it's more expensive. But yeah,
Okay, yeah, I think it's also more complicated to write a client to figure out which one you need to use where, when, and so.
yeah.
So we're going to drop it.
Yeah.
Any objections to dropping check? Speak up. You'll have another chance when you review the document. But okay.
Well, I think we need specific text proposal here.
So okay. Here's the thing about search. I know at least 4 different ways that search has been implemented in different servers, and I know of no interoperability issues that causes. That search is consistent in how it's implemented for the things that matter, like flag searches and such.
Or
And
header field searches.
Or header field searches. But for strings in the body of the message, there's no interoperability issue. It's a user experience issue. And like I said,
It's
I know
quality of
4 different
implementation almost,
versions.
yeah.
And users of those systems just get used to what they get. And I don't think we need to worry about it.
So what's the proposal here? That we remove the exact specification of how body search works and have it behave like search fuzzy?
Yes. But it's not a have it behave like search fuzzy. Some servers will make it behave like a search fuzzy. Some will do substring matches. Some will do other things.
I would like to keep, if you don't know what you're doing, do substring or something. I don't know. Not exactly this written this way, but
I agree.
if you haven't thought about
right.
optimizing it, start with this.
A graduate student who's writing an IMAP server will need better wording than what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
But anybody who's really knows what they're doing with a mail store will do whatever they do with mail stores. So maybe just a few words in here that say substring matching is a good default if you don't have anything else. If you don't have a reason to do anything else. Maybe I'll take an action to look at the text here and figure something out when I do my updates, and we'll see where we get.
Yeah, the one thing I'd like to see is less prescriptive about exactly what you have to do.
Correct.
And because that's not being followed in practice.
Right. Nobody worried about that. So let's take that.
Cool. Okay, fetch macros.
The macros are handy, and clients use them.
Yeah, I'm tempted to leave them as is.
Fast is kind of the funny one, but
yes.
I don't know that I've ever seen that, but I've seen all in full.
All right, so keep.
Might as well keep them all.
I mean,
it does not add complexity.
No.
So
It's a simple bit mask and,
Right.
a couple of,
Right.
it's relatively simple.
So while in principle, I agree with Timo that it's probably time to do that, it doesn't matter enough to break interoperability for it.
Yeah.
Or break backward compatibility for it.
Yeah.
And then things like the binary and body requiring .peak only. That's an interesting one. Turn off the auto setting of scene.
The body, I don't have enough experience with binary to say, but the body is certainly, it's kind of odd that it sets the scene bit for some partial body retrievals. And the main thing is if you have a 2 gigabyte body part and you retrieve the first 3 bytes of it, does it make sense to set the scene bit? And if the answer is no,
Yeah, but this is a
at
user
what point
interface.
does it make sense?
It's a user interface issue.
Not entirely, because the scene bit affects other clients that are accessing the same mail store. So, or, the same part of the mail store.
Personally, I hate auto setting scene, but I'm just trying to find out if there are clients that relies on it. So I don't want just to take this away.
Clients that rely on it.
Well, then I suspect maybe we should again encourage use .peak, but don't take it out.
I'll buy that. So a bit of discussion that says setting the auto scene flag, automatically setting the scene flag on partial searches has been shown to be problematic. Clients should consider whether they should turn off the automatic setting using .peak. Whatever, something like that.
Yes, if you can justify problematic other than this is annoying, which is not quite the same thing.
Well, problematic is unexpected behavior.
That's true.
If you're using, for instance, if you're using a partial fetch in order to populate a one-line summary of the message in the message list, and that causes the message to be seen, that's unexpected behavior.
Yeah, if you are writing the client like this, I assume users will start screaming at you very soon.
Right. So that's some kind of text like that that says .peak is a good idea for these situations.
Sounds good.
Oh.
Next one, yes. This is a mission, will be fixed.
Yep. Yeah, I have a lot of, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of use of the RFC 822 versions of these.
I will just
But
keep
this
it.
might be the time to start deprecating them, because RFC 822 has been obsolete for 15 years now.
There is actually comment at the beginning, even in 3501, saying, despite saying RFC 822, it doesn't actually mean that.
I understand, but I just would rather not have that be a protocol element anymore.
Well, it's a MIME element still, so
Yeah,
we're stuck.
yeah.
Well,
How about properly deprecating, which means leave them in, but say that they may be, that these
removed in the next revision or
synonyms
something.
may be removed in the next version, so you should start using the other name.
I'm okay with it. It's sort of like must minus in security area,
Yeah,
Must implement now, might be removed. Yeah. But anyway, I think
we can put text in for that, but yeah, I agree. It's time to deprecate them.
Yes. Mentioning capability that it might return on login and authenticate. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Namespace response extensions. I was thinking about this yesterday, and I thought I agree with you with Timo. And then I think I remembered one case where it's actually used, which is a language extension. Localized namespaces per language.
Well, his point is that you should tell people where to find what that means. So.
It is defined in ABNF. It just, there is no example of what it is. Well, it's an extension, but I think probably need to add some text what the intent of it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Chris, is namespace one of yours? Okay.
Well, I guess.
Do you have an opinion about namespace?
Are there any namespace response extensions currently?
I think language does have one, but I need
Okay.
to.
Then we can put in an example, and then that should do it.
Okay.
All right, and then the last little items there about separator stuff.
The second one is interesting.
I don't think the second one is correct. Inbox cannot have a separate separator. The only way it can have if it's its own personal namespace.
Right, but you can have an inbox in each namespace.
Only one of them is Magic Inbox.
Only one of them is Magic, correct.
So
So maybe it doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
Okay, I'll buy that.
Should flags, permanent flags be sent after new keyword? I think the answer is no.
Yeah.
The reason, well, so we have /* special marker saying, I support 88
Right.
new keywords and can store them.
Right.
If the server returns this marker, you store a new keyword, there is no need to announce it because, and the command succeeded, it stored it. There are some implementations that have a limit on number of keywords. For them, at some point, they need to announce that
Someone just
/* is no longer there at this point, you know. So I think the answer is no.
Timo, do you have any comment about the use case for what you're talking about here, about the flags, permanent flags?
He wrote a text according to the spec, and some servers break it.
Okay.
Sorry. There's a comment here. Timo says, I don't really care. It's just different servers work differently.
Okay. Excellent.
All right.
The last one, I'm not entirely sure. Is this just clarification? Search text on.
He's just pointing out some discussions that happened on the list some time ago. So. Yeah, I don't.
I'll check his wiki.
We should look at the explanations for search text and search body and make sure that they're clear about what the differences are.
Right.
The other thing is, do they work differently as far as drilling into body parts and decoding the body parts to do the search and all of that?
No, I think one is more inclusive
You
than
think?
the other. One is more inclusive than.
I think
than the-
body is more inclusive for that, but text is more inclusive for header fields and stuff. So, there are differences, and we need to make sure that the text clarifies it. That's all.
Yes. Okay. So thank you, Timo, for this. This is actually working group last call level comments. I'm very glad you sent them early, so that makes it so much easier to deal with. So thank you for that.
All right. Don't need to get any more of that. Changes. Cool.
This is. Oh, this is just past changes.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Alexi. We are pretty much exactly on time. Are we at working group last call stage?
Absolutely
yet?
not.
No.
But we should be. We'll certainly be by Montreal, and I hope sooner. Yeah, one, maybe two revisions, Alexei says, and I agree with that.
Cool.
I have to make a pass, and then Alexei will have to make a pass again. And if he doesn't come up with anything significant after that, then we should be ready for last call. So, yeah.
Awesome. That is all we had on the agenda for today, other than checking our milestones. Load. Like everybody's trying to do stuff with this all at the same time. Yeah. Data Tracker gets busy 3 times a year. I'm not convinced this has a super reliable network connection. Just a laptop. All right. There we go. Yeah.
Oh, actually, so. I was trying to remember. This is one of my. This is your working book now. Right. So I put the fetch preview on the first telechat in April. So I nearly put it before, but transition, but we had quite a few very busy telechats. So.
Yeah, but that doesn't. Oh, okay. So the only thing we ought to be able to adopt these documents, the 2 milestones that say adopt. We ought to be able to get that done, right? So
Yeah, adopting those 2 documents should be fine.
Right. And then-
that's just a matter of sending out the
Right.
call for adoption.
Then we
list.
meet we mark those milestones done when that happens, and we create new milestones for dates for those.
Yep.
So the IMAP for Rev 2 change the milestone to say May, and we should be okay with that, or maybe
Alright.
June. Say June.
Yep.
We can always beat it.
Cool. And updating the charter was to look at doing next month. We have 2 charter actions from yesterday, one of which was to update the charter for this, and the other one was to propose a new charter for updating 532122.
Yeah. So that's the question of the dates for that is to you. Can you meet those dates?
Can I meet updating this charter? The
Updating
for
the
this
charter
group,
by
yes.
next month.
The charter for the other group's your problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Cool. We don't have anything else on our list, I don't believe, for milestones, certainly not from today's session. Planning for Montreal, we'll definitely, I expect, want to meet there again. We'll have a new charter and new work to look at. We don't need to go over the charter again today unless anyone has anything they want to propose for that. Dinner is tonight. I didn't call for show of hands. Anyone who didn't already say they were coming at the JMAP session yesterday or email me, got a couple more. Perfect. 3 more. I will change from 12 to 14. Excellent. That is all I've got. Anyone have anything else they want to discuss for this IETF regarding extra?
What time does Utah come in?
8 minutes.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Oh, yes. Yes. Good point. We'll meet here at 6:50. It is only about 5 minutes walk to the place. So here is downstairs in the lobby, between the lifts. I will send an email to the lists.
Look for a crowd of socially awkward people standing together.
No, that doesn't work. There's heaps of them.
Too broad.
Yeah. Narrow it down. No, it still doesn't help. All right, thank you. If you haven't signed the blue sheets yet, I think they're floating around the room somewhere. Please grab them, sign them. Thank you. Hello. Yeah. Give us a minute. 5. I've pulled up your page here.
It sort of means you sort of to end like 5 minutes early, right?
It does help. Yeah.
The planning is